I love you, mommy.
Yo, baby, what's happening, baby? Yo, we're back. We're better than ever. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for being here today. I'm Mike Hughes. You are listening to Mike on the Mic and Everything Chicago Sports Related podcast. We got some news, man. We got some news. We're back and we're better than ever. Bulls basketball obviously didn't go the way we wanted it to last night. Tyrese Halliburton with a 2020 game. I mean, it was hard to watch. I know my guy Rob Scott was there right now. By the way, Rob, I saw your text, baby. Feel better. But with that being said, man, we got a horrible loss handed to us last night, man. Obviously, no Nikola Vucevic. He's been down the last few nights, and it's unfortunate, but I'm still at a point right now where I am believing in Bulls basketball, and there are several reasons to why I feel that way. And the biggest one right now, man, is just looking at the tear that Kobe White has been on today. Tonight, we have a lot of topics that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about, obviously, Lonzo Ball situation. We're going to be talking about Kobe White potentially being an all-star and the most improved player of the year. There's so much things we need to break down, but first and foremost, to give a word from our sponsor, I want to give a shout out to Bench Mob Chicago. Bench Mob Chicago creates the best Chicago Bulls up-to-date information on Instagram. You can check them out on Bench Mob Chicago on Instagram, or you can go on benchmob.com and get cool merch, cool hoodies, beanies, wristbands, hats, all of the above. They also have cool training cards, signed autograph cards as well. You can definitely check them out. They're sponsoring every video with us, and it has been an absolute delight to be partnered with them over the last couple of years. Everything Chicago Bulls related, you can check out on Bench Mob Chicago. So with that being said, we're going to get into tonight's episode, man. It's going to be a lot of fun to really break down what we could potentially see from a Chicago Bulls team that, man, not too long ago, we all sat up here and pretty much said that it was over. We said that the rebuild is imminent. It's eventually just going to have to happen. But now we're kind of at a point right now where it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I don't think there is a possibility that we win a championship with this current constructed roster, but there is a legitimate possibility that this team could once again be a playoff team. I don't think that's out the realm of possibilities. I don't think that is too much to expect from this type of team. I love what we've seen. They have won 9 of their last 14 games, and that's all without Zach Lavine. Every single one of those wins was without Zach Lavine. And as Zach Lavine is obviously waiting for a trade destination, he's obviously waiting to be traded. It's completely understandable for the Chicago Bulls to just say, hey, man, we're just going to roll over. We're rolling over. We don't want to do this anymore. We're just going to tank. And they did the complete opposite. They saw this as a challenge. They saw this as adversity that they were ready to overcome. And where most people could lay down and say, hey, man, this isn't where we want to be. This isn't what we want to do. Kobe White and Patrick Williams looked at this and said, this is our opportunity to show this organization that this is who we are, and this is why you need to hold on to us. Patrick Williams has averaged over 14 points per game over the last 14 games, even a 25-point performance against the Miami Heat in South Beach, which was an absolute domination and a Bulls win on top of that, by the way. Let's not talk about it, baby, because the Bulls out here getting quality wins. Quality wins. We're talking wins against the 76ers, the Lakers, the Bucks, the Heat. I mean, we're doing this all day, man. We're doing this all day, and I'm here for it. I love it. I love every single minute of it. We've seen a lot from Kobe White, who over the last 10 games has averaged over 22 points per game. At one point was shooting over 50% from the three-point line. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. And right now, you look at a guy on the year, you have to take in consideration that at the beginning of the year, he was coming off the bench, but overall, I mean, most improved player of the year at minimum. Kobe White on the year, 17 points per game, 4.9 assists per game, 4 rebounds per game, shooting 39.5% from the three-point line. I mean, you just love to see it. You love to see it. This whole team from start to finish has been absolutely exhilarating to just see this team. I was talking to my guy Kev the other day, my guy Mark. I'm saying, man, Bulls basketball is back. And as much as I'm joking about it, like, hey, yeah, we're back, we're better than ever. I'm seeing fucking red. Like, it's a blast. You know what I mean? It's a blast to have those conversations. But a part of me truly believes that. A part of me truly believes that there is a foundation set right now around Kobe White and Patrick Williams and Nikola Vucevic that I could see an offense who actually has an identity. The overall floor spacing, the overall team camaraderie, and the chemistry that this team has. I'm looking at what was the play the other night? I forget who they were playing, but I saw Kobe White coming down, running down the paint. He shoots it out to the corner to Alex Caruso. You think he's going to hit a wide open three. He passes it to the top of the key to Javon Carter. The Ball brothers go crazy, and Javon Carter splashes a three in everybody's face. If you would have told me that there's transition basketball in a world where Kobe to Caruso to Javon, and that's an easy bucket. If you would have told me that 3-4 weeks ago, I would have said you were crazy. That those guys are even on the floor at the same time, and it's working. It's working. And the biggest thing right now, one of the biggest notable pieces that I'm excited to talk about because we don't talk about it enough, is Lonzo Ball. We had nothing to base off of. Obviously, the beginning of the season, preseason's rolling around. You already hear the news, hey, Lonzo Ball is going to be out for the 2023-2024 season, most likely. You obviously get the DPE, the disabled players. Listen, you have those conversations about, okay, here's $10.2 million the Bulls can spend. Fine. That's fine. It is what it is. You know what I mean? We weren't expecting him to come back anyways. We understand with, the nerve damage that he experienced and the failed surgery. There's a lot that goes into that, but Billy Donovan gets on the mic and says something last night that just got me going. According to Billy Donovan, he said, and I quote, "The pain he was experiencing that was causing the setbacks has been eliminated." And he followed up with that, and he also said, while there was the initial fear that Lonzo suffered nerve damage, could have been potential career ending, we hope to see him at some point running in January. That's paraphrasing, of course, but he goes on and talks about and discussing how, we had a shot. We had a shot at some point, man. We're talking 2021. We're looking at a team who was first in the East, one of the best defensive basketball teams in all of basketball. You saw Zach Lavine and DeMar DeRozan thriving with Lonzo Ball as a starting point guard of the Chicago Bulls. And after 35 games, that was it. It has been over 715 days since the last time we saw Lonzo Ball hit the NBA floor and wear a Chicago Bulls uniform. That's sad, man. I mean, we had those conversations so early on about, listen, we understand that injuries are a part of, his history. We're not going to lie. We're not going to sit up here and say it's not. But we're also going to look at that and say, hey, it's worth it at the end of the day. No one in their right mind looked at that and said he was going to be out for over 700 days. Nobody thought there would be this type of situation. I mean, it was just so unfortunate to see it occur. And it's so much bigger than basketball. It's so much bigger than basketball. When you look at a guy like Lonzo Ball, you want to root for him. I mean, I remember growing up watching Lonzo Ball's Facebook TV show, Inside the Ball Brothers, and you have those conversations about who him, Jello, and LaMelo could have potentially become. We see who LaMelo can be. We never really got to see who Jello could become, and whether that's because of what happened overseas or whether that's just because he didn't develop into who we thought he could be. That's neither here nor there, but Lonzo's the one where you're like, damn. Like, it finally started clicking. He said Chicago felt like home. He finally had a co-star that was willing to win and willing to be that number one guy. You didn't really get that in New Orleans. He was too young in LA. He wasn't ready for the moment with LeBron. Zion wasn't healthy. And you're finally in Chicago. You're the number one team in the East. Bam, you go down. Now we hear these rumors, and here's the actual quote from Billy Donovan. We're hearing that, quote, hopefully in January he'll start running. Now, I understand as a fan that there is a huge difference between being ready to play in an NBA game, being ready to be back in basketball operations, and just simply running. We've seen Lonzo Ball start running before, where he still had the knee pain. It kept getting worse and worse, and it wasn't going to get better, and that's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, man, I think we're finally in a good place. It sounds like we're in a good place. It sounds like he's in a good place. The knee pain is gone. Obviously, he had his banter with Stephen A. Smith in the offseason. You got to stop yapping. I used to like you, man, and we heard all of that. Don't get it twisted. Like, it's still is somewhat of a valid argument on Stephen A. Smith's end, but also it's, that was just unnecessary on his end to say something like that. Lonzo hasn't been in the news in a while. I know that bothered him. So to see him get an opportunity to potentially be back on the court at some point during the 2024 season, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Now, there is a conversation, and I did talk about this a little bit earlier, and I want to get into it because I do think it's very important. A lot of people are wondering if Lonzo Ball can actually return at some point during the 2023-2024 season. There is a part of the DPE, which if you didn't know is, the disabled players exception list, which means that the NBA is going to grant you at least $10 million. The Bulls got $10.2 million to add another player to fill in for a guy like Lonzo Ball. And people are curious in this clause, if a player is able to come back sooner rather than later, what is going to happen? Does a player get cut? Does Lonzo Ball have to wait until the 2024-2025 season? How does that actually occur? The facts are this. I looked this up later last night when I was writing my article for Chicago State of Mind, which you can check that out right now on Substack. But with that being said, nothing occurs. The player acquired via the DPE is unaffected. This basically seen as stroke of good fortune that a player thought to be out for the remainder of the season is able to return. So basically what happens is Lonzo Ball is able to return, and the players that were added with that $10.2 million are not affected. The only thing that would probably change is a roster spot. You know what I mean? So with that being said, Lonzo Ball, if some point during the 2024 early season, maybe March, maybe late or early April, depending on what happens in the playoffs, there is a chance that Lonzo Ball could return at some point during the 2024 season. It would be exciting, man. It'd be exciting for a lot of different reasons, but I think one of the big questions right now is who is going to be on this roster at that time. Now, my guy Rob Scott, partner and co-star of Welcome to Mars podcast and host of Rob's Two Cents, said I wouldn't risk bringing back Lonzo this season. And I think that's really the conversation. But here's the problem. And here's something that I've noticed and something that I think a lot of us as Bulls fans understand. This feels like the last dance. This feels like, hey, man, Lavine's probably going to be traded by the All-Star break. You know what I mean? Nikola Vucevic isn't getting any younger. He's already dealing with injuries now. He's out with a groin injury. And DeMar DeRozan is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So what are you as a unit looking to gain? Because Lonzo Ball, if he comes back next September in 2024, could come back to a very different team than when he left. When he left, it was Lonzo Ball, Zach Lavine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and then, of course, Nikola Vucevic. When he returns, if this is 2024 September or even October, you're looking at Kobe White, Patrick Williams, Ayo Dosunmu, and maybe Nikola Vucevic, depending on what they do with the deadline. You know what I mean? There's a lot of questions right now. There's a lot of questions on what could happen. You know what I mean? Like it really is the last dance. And yeah, Rob Scott said slow down there, more like the last prom dance, but this is the last dance for this unit. You know what I mean? Like this unit is going to be together moving forward is very unlikely. I think it's kind of already over if you really look at it from a perspective of what was last seen with Lonzo Ball. Like Zach Lavine is likely not going to return at any point during the 2023-2024 season with the Chicago Bulls. That's really one of the big hard-hitting questions, though, is what is the team going to look like when Lonzo Ball returns? And what I want to see more than anything is the backcourt of Kobe White and Lonzo Ball. If Lonzo could potentially get back to who he used to be, I think you have one of the more deadly three-point shooting backcourts in the entire league. That's really how I feel. I mean, you look at a team, Kobe White right now is shooting 39.5% from three this season. But in the last 10, 15 games, he's shooting over 45%. You look at Lonzo Ball in the 2021 season, over 35 games, was shooting 42.3% from three, one of the better defensive guards in the entire league, averaging 13, 5, and 5. You look at that, him and Kobe White could be a dynamic duo and a great backcourt for the Chicago Bulls in the foreseeable future. Now, are they going to re-sign Lonzo Ball after the 2024 season? That's the question. You know what I mean? Like, are they willing to take that risk? I don't know. And personally myself, I probably would stray away from that. I probably would say, listen, as much as I love him, as much as we're happy he's back, as great as that is for not only him and his family, but for the game, I just don't think I could see Lonzo Ball making $10+ million in a single season ever again from any team. I just don't. And I think you have those conversations about the injuries, over 715 days at this point. On top of that, you're going to go into January, maybe even go into next summer. That's over almost 1,000 days since you've hit an NBA floor. I don't know what that would look like, but I do love the idea of a healthy Lonzo Ball and a Kobe White sharing a backcourt together with DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams at the wing spots. And hey, man, you could say Nikola Vucevic, or we can get a drum line going, baby. You love a good drum line. Andre Drummond with 24 and 25 the other night against the Atlanta Hawks was absolutely disgusting. And yeah, I love to see that because that's exactly the guy we wanted to see. That's the guy out of Detroit I know and love. That's the guy we saw in LA dominate. Not so much in Philly, but obviously Embiid's there, so that was very different situation. But there's a lot going on, man. There's a lot going on. I'm excited about this. Frank Marshall said in the comments, will Donovan be back next season? I know he is under contract, but he shouldn't be. There's a lot of questions about that. See, because here's the thing, and Frank's a great guy. Frank's a great guy. He does amazing content. Big fan of him. Big fan. And I think Donovan unfortunately gets a bad rep. I don't think he's as good as many believed he was going to be, but I also don't think he's as bad. You know what I mean? You have to understand how good this team has been since Zach Lavine left. You know what I mean? It's important. It's important to notice that the overall floor spacing that has been created, the overall team chemistry that has been created, the great shot selection from other players without Zach Lavine has been extremely fun to watch. Seeing the utilization of Kobe White and the utilization of guys like Ayo Dosunmu, Andre Drummond, and Patrick Williams, I'm seeing a guy who finally has the freedom to do what he wants to do as a head coach. I feel like a lot of the time we've seen Billy Donovan and Zach Lavine just clash. They're clashing button heads every day. And I think, unfortunately, I have to reevaluate how I feel about Billy Donovan. I'm going to continue to watch how this team operates. I'm going to continue to watch how the team plays together in spite of Zach Lavine not being there. I mean, how many times could you say that your star player isn't on the floor and the team is over exceeding expectations? This was a team that we say, man, we're going into a full-blown rebuild, and they've won 9 of their last 14. Kobe White looks like an all-star. DeMar DeRozan's found his shot. Patrick Williams, oh my God, Patrick Williams is doing something, and it's actually very beneficial. The man's giving you 20 buckets every other game. I mean, it's great to see. So, I have a lot of questions about what Billy Donovan's offense could potentially look like as it continues to flourish without Zach. Can they sustain that? That's the big one. You can start off 9 for 14, cool, but how do you finish the rest of the year? Let's not forget the Detroit Pistons went 2-0 to start the year, and they are now 2-28, lost 28 games straight. It's crazy. But don't be that team, man. I swear to God, if the Bulls are the team to lose to the Pistons, I'll lose my shit. But in all seriousness, though, you have to have a legitimate conversation, and you have to say, how is Billy's offense now that Zach's gone? He obviously didn't trust Zach. Zach didn't believe in him, vice versa. There's a lot of conversations you can make, but I'm curious. Frank also says, I don't like Donovan because his ability to adjust with what he has on the court is bad. He's better with Drummond than Vooch, but I would rather have Vooch with his offensive ability, but Donovan can't coach a scoring big. And Patrick Williams at the 4 is stupid. Patrick Williams at the 4 is honestly just what you're going to have while you have DeMar DeRozan. I do see a world where Patrick Williams goes to the 3 if DeMar is traded. I think that's honestly constructurally better depending on the situation, because if DeMar is traded, you could have Torrey Craig at the 3 and then obviously Patrick Williams at the 4. Hey, man, that's a backcourt. Not a backcourt. That's a defensive wings. And then you have a backcourt, obviously, of looking at guys like Alex Caruso and Kobe White. I mean, that defensive team is going to be monstrous, especially when Drummond's on the floor. Drumline. But it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to keep going. I can't wait to keep discussing what we have going on, because I do believe there is something special going on in Chicago right now. I don't think it's where we want to be. You know what I mean? We don't have that Jason Tatum type, Luka Doncic type player yet. But Kobe White being a number 2 on a championship team, I could see that. I could see Patrick Williams being a nice 3-4 guy. I love the development. I feel like we're finally starting to develop. And I want to pose this question to everybody watching because I do think it's important to ask. We have talked about the Bulls' failure of developing players over the last 8 years. Zach Lavine's also been on this team the last 8 years. Lauri Markkanen leaves not only the Chicago Bulls, but leaves Zach Lavine and starts scoring the ball. Wendell Carter Jr. looks 10 times better in Orlando than he did in Chicago. You're seeing guys leave and play so much better. And that's just real. So when I see guys like Kobe White, Patrick Williams not be who we want them to be, just be role players at best under Zach Lavine, Zach comes out, Patrick's fucking flourishing. Kobe White is an all-star. I start to question, was it more so the Bulls can't develop, or is it more so that Zach's play style defers other players? You can't develop when Zach Lavine's on the court because he's not getting you the ball. That's just what it is. He's not getting you the ball. He has poor shot selection. He's not creating plays. He's not creating space. So now that we see they're actually creating space and they're actually helping develop guys, you're starting to see a very different version of an Ayo Dosunmu, of a Patrick Williams, of a Kobe White, of an Andre Drummond, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm not going to sit up here and use Zach Lavine as an scapegoat, but the facts don't lie. This isn't just guys on this roster. These are guys who have left this team, who have had so much success in other places. At some point, you got to ask the question. It's just real. And then I love this comment by Frank right here because we got to shut that one down. I would be fine trading both Lavine and DeMar, giving Patrick Williams a true shot and get me a damn true Taj Gibson style 4 in the trade. Listen, Frank, I love that first part, giving Patrick Williams an opportunity, giving Kobe an opportunity to be that guy. But Taj Gibson 4 style guy in today's league, it's not going, bro. It's that we need a true athletic 4 who can play both sides of the ball. Taj Gibson back in the day, that was dope. Taj Gibson today, Taj Gibson the last 5-6 years, it's not happening. It's not happening anymore. But listen, man, I appreciate you guys tuning in today. We have a very shorter episode today because it's not too much to talk about. Obviously, we did a Bulls show the other day. We discussed what the Chicago Bulls were going to do. I'm not sure when exactly Welcome to Mars will be back. We definitely have to figure out a schedule with the New Year's and the holidays rolling around, but we will be back and better than ever with my guy, Rob Scott, and I, and we're going to continue to keep moving. If you haven't already, hit that follow button. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram at theshy.kid. We have 14.3 thousand followers, man. The goal for New Year's was 10,000 followers at the beginning of the year, and we have surpassed that. So I truly do appreciate every single one of you guys who have been here. Appreciate everybody who's tuned into the lives all year long. Always supporting me, always supporting the channel. It truly does mean a lot. Maybe somehow, some way in the next few days we get to 15K. You never know. You never know, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time, I'll check you guys out later. This is Mike Hughes from Mike on the Mic, aka The Shy Kid. Peace.
I love you.